Thank you for joining this panel session on how effective is mobile multimedia advertising. I know there are lots of demonstrations and interesting announcements out there, so I really appreciate you take the time from a step back from the flow of announcements and demos to hear the sorts of key executives and experts in the mobile marketing space. My name is Thomas Husson. I'm a senior analyst at Forrester. I'm French and based in Paris. My research covers mobile marketing and advertising. And thanks to our guest today, the GSMA, I'll be your moderator for this panel session. So my job today is to take a few minutes to set up the scene, introduce the context of this discussion, as well as the five experts that we have in this panel discussion from Yahoo, CNN, Best Buy, Group M, and future platforms. And I'm sure they will have clever and insightful answers to the questions I'm going to ask them. The good news is that you too will be able to ask questions. We'll take 10 to 15 minutes before the conclusion of the panel so that you can interact directly with the speakers. So in short, I'll be the timekeeper and I'll make sure you have the time to jump into the conversation. So how effective is mobile multimedia advertising? Tricky question. How effective is TV advertising? Would be a tricky one as well. Because I think measuring the effectiveness and the ROI of a campaign is always a difficult exercise, whatever the media. It's all the more difficult that mobile is a nascent and emerging media. Some people could argue, looking at click-through rates on mobile web banners, that they're way higher than let's say, internet PC web banners, and that's somehow a measure of effectiveness. Well, we're comparing obviously apples and oranges here. I'm not denying the fact that click-through rates on mobile web banners are, depending on campaigns and countries and so on, between 3 and 5%, and that click-through rates online are below 0.5%. What I'm saying is actually that when the internet was an emerging media as well, the beginning of the millennium, click-through rates were not that low. It's simply that it was a way to engage with an early adopter audience. And anyway, click-through rates are not a measure of effectiveness. At the end of the day, what advertisers care about is whether a campaign delivers on the objectives they have set and whether there is a return on investment. So, I know some could argue as well that mobile is not an emerging media, that there are hundreds of millions of mobile internet users across the world, and that overall the industry, the mobile advertising industry, represents dozens of billions of dollars. I think that's far from being the case. If you exclude creation and development costs, and if you look at pure media advertising spend, and if you look at this, for example, in the main European countries, we're only discussing a market that is around, dozens of millions of euros. Even if you look at Japan, the most advanced mobile multimedia market in the world, according to Dentsu, the leading agency over there, at the end of 2009, the total value of mobile advertising, the mobile advertising market in Japan, was around 1.2 billion euros. Still representing a small share of the total advertising pie. And bear in mind that 3G penetration in Japan is above 90%, and that mobile internet penetration is above 70%. So I think what it means is that the market is obviously growing very quickly, but we're starting from a low base. One of the key drivers will be the availability of better measurement, analytic, and reporting tools to be able to track the performance of mobile campaigns. Comscore and the GSMA introduced more than a year ago in the UK mobile measurement tools, and Médiamétrie did the same in France not that long ago. I think advertisers need to be reassured on the number of unique visitors and on the time spent on the mobile internet and on mobile applications. Mobile analytics solutions from the likes of Adobe and HE Internet are improving, and we'll see lots of traction and innovation in this year in this space. So far from me the idea to say that mobile multimedia advertising is not effective. I just want to step back from the hype and the rosy picture we often hear of, and to be honest, to be a little bit provocative for your speakers who will join me in a minute. There are plenty of opportunities today to tap into, and the future looks very, very promising. So after this quick introduction, with no further ado, let me invite our speakers to join me on stage. So please join me in welcoming Alex Linda, who is Director of Mobile Advertising at Yahoo. Tom Hume, Managing Director at Future Platforms. Luis Gamp, Vice President at CNN Mobile. Adam Smith, Future Directors at Group M. And Scott Moore, VP Marketing at Best Buy Mobile. So before handing over to them for the first question, I'm going to briefly introduce them. So Alex, you're on the mobile advertising solutions at Yahoo. And you started pushing for mobile in the past 15 years and moved to California a couple of years ago.
That's right.
Tom, you're based in the UK and you're the Managing Director at Future Platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Luis, you're the Vice President at CNN Mobile and a former global chairman of the Mobile Marketing Association.
Yes.
Adam, you're Future Directors at Group M. And Scott, you're the Vice President of Mobile Marketing and Strategy at Best Buy Mobile, based in the US, in St. Paul. Okay, so what I'd like to do at the first question is to give the audience a sense of what your job is and the role of mobile within each of your company. So maybe we can start with you.
Sure.
Alex.
So, Yahoo, I think there's been a lot of question about what is Yahoo. I think making sure that we answer that question effectively first. Yahoo is the premier digital media company with 630 million users worldwide on the PC. Those are our users who are increasingly turning to mobile, and we as a company, we certainly know it. In the US alone, we have about 50 million users using our mobile services. It's a very large number of people. It's increasing every day. Our global footprint is huge. And I think as we look to set our corporate goals for the next 3 years, it's called out very clearly. So from Yahoo, number one, we're going to engage and delight our users. Number two, we're going to go where the user goes. Critically important that we do that on mobile. Number three, we're going to deliver personal meaning through the science and data that Yahoo has. Number four, we're going to foster real social relationships through our communications and communities products. And number five, we're going to make sure that we can build an ecosystem around that mission, and we can work as Yahoo does, as a portal, as a partner, as a publisher, working with our advertisers to build out those solutions. So mobile is a critical part of that vision that we have, and I think the announcement we made last Thursday, our new tablet ecosystem, that really reinforces that vision.
And could you just give us a quick sense of the importance of mobile today? Any, metrics or information that you can share with us to give us a sense of the state of mobile today?
So I would say that we are seeing, as an advertising group, a large number of our RFPs coming in from advertisers now have mobile on that RFP. Now, it's a nascent space. We still see people asking in very general terms. I would say that we have a lot of success, though, both those RFPs that come in, but a lot more about looking at the wider solutions we have. I think maybe the previous panel talked about integrated campaigns. We see those as being one of the real areas that mobile can benefit, is to look to extend the message, to bring the message to more users, to go across different channels.
Thank you. Tom?
We're very much at the other end of the scale. We're a small business, 20 people, based in Brighton in the UK, and we spent the last 10 years executing mobile sites and apps. So taking them all the way from the very first germ of idea through design process, build, port, test, launch, that sort of thing. And we've done campaign work for the likes of Reebok and Lynx, as well as a host of other stuff for apps and sites for startups and corporates.
Thank you. And I work with CNN, and CNN, as many of you know, has worldwide news coverage from a mobile perspective, what we are trying to do is to engage consumers with the news and with world-class reporting across platforms. And so from that perspective, we intend on one end of the scale to excel and we hope set a benchmark for how news can be deployed in a compelling way on mobile platforms. But in addition to that, we hope to provide an experience, so whether a consumer is on a mobile device or a mobile phone or a mobile tablet or a PC or a TV or for that matter their refrigerator, that they can get the news when and where they want it. From the standpoint of mobile advertising, we believe that mobile advertising will drive the growth of our mobile business. It's true that there's a revenue stream from distribution of video, and that's been pretty healthy. It's true that we're moving into a world where there may be distribution fees from distributors, both inside the U.S. and also around the world. But on the other hand, we really think that mobile advertising is the key to that growth, and we're seeing very substantial increases now. And so the interesting thing about that from the standpoint of a somewhat established media company is that as we see that growth, it further establishes the position that we've taken that mobile is a fundamental and strategic part of our business, and we're able to invest.
And quick question in terms of numbers. A couple of media companies have announced that mobile was presenting, depending on certain peak times, up to 25-30% of the overall audience. Have you shared any of those metrics, or could you give us an order of magnitudes, not specifically for a period of time, but anything you can share about that?
Sure. I know some media companies have actually seen more mobile page views than online page views. I can't speak to CNN's yet. We haven't quite released that information publicly, but I can say that we see tremendous increases in traffic. It's a substantial portion of our traffic on a daily basis. And in fact, we see differences in usage patterns between mobile web usage, and for that matter, apps as well, and also online. So for example, a day that might be somewhat normal online could be an incredible record-setting day for us. And on the other hand, some of the days when we might be going along, kind of chugging along at a fairly normal pace, online we'll see a spike. So the patterns are not the same. We do tend to see consistent usage throughout the week, including on weekends, at times in a way that we don't always see online.
Thanks.
Well, Group M is WPP's media investment arm. We buy about $80 billion worth of media space a year from a global measured total of about $500 billion. So in terms of relativity, we are about 1/3 of the major ad agency buying. Our client profile is typically Fortune 500. Mobile is part of our digital. We tend to account for it as part of our digital business. And it runs about 3% of our digital billings at the moment in North America and Europe at any rate. So you multiply that through, it's probably about 1% of our total billings. So clearly we have quite a
Sense of
large fish to fry in other media. Yeah.
Right. Thanks. Scott?
I'm Scott Moore. So I head up marketing for Best Buy Mobile. So you may be aware of Best Buy, which is the leading consumer electronics retailer in the U.S. and now increasingly across the globe. We sell about $40 billion worth of consumer electronics, primarily televisions, computers, entertainment, and that's what we've been known for. Best Buy Mobile is a joint venture between Best Buy and the Car Phone Warehouse, or you may know it as the Phone House on the continent, which our attempt was basically to take the way that the Car Phone Warehouse approaches the customer, approaches the networks, and tries to be a real consumer advocate for the customer. So it was a joint venture between these two companies that launched the mobile phone selling capability within Best Buy. So I can tell you from a Best Buy perspective, and Best Buy's overall strategy, mobile is everywhere. It's in center to our business strategy. If you look across, the 4,000 of us at corporate, it's in every single discussion that we're in. And then as sort of the owner of a marketing budget on the panel, mobile's constantly on our mind. I see it in a couple ways. I see it in the traditional way, which is we have to figure out how much we're going to invest each year in mobile within my space. We see it also in terms of we have 30 million members of our loyalty program. It's called Reward Zone. And we see mobile as a way to reach out to them and connect with them. So we both see it in terms of what we might do with Yahoo, but also what capabilities can we build within this sort of consumer network that we own. And then the third place, which isn't necessarily about the sexy, rich media, etc. part, is how do we use mobile devices, mobile technologies, apps, etc., to transform the shopping experience? Because that's really our core business, and you know, we've got our CTO sitting out in the audience there. That is very front and center in terms of how we think about mobile. So it's not just where do we get the best ROI. It's a brand new capability that as a marketer, as a retailer, we have. How do we embrace it and put it in the right place at the right time, depending upon the problem we solve.
Right, and how you integrate, and how you have a company-wide conversation about the role of mobile in the next, I guess, at least 2 to 3 years, to not just develop your own mobile marketing presence and so on, but integrate mobile as part of the overall company strategy. So in terms of the panel discussion specifically, we are going to be discussing how effective is mobile multimedia advertising. So the first question after this round of introduction, I'd like you to define what's specific to mobile multimedia advertising. What do you mean by mobile multimedia advertising, and how it differs somehow to more traditional mobile advertising formats such as SMS, and if this distinction makes sense. Who wants to jump first?
The pictures. Apart from that.
I mean, I'd say that most of the differences are down to the sort of standard differences between mobile and other media. It's about the availability of it, the immediacy of it, perhaps some of the privacy issues as well. Mobile's a very sort of personal device, so the context of the consumption is, you can keep it very, very close, and you don't necessarily need to be, other people don't need to be seeing what you're doing, which opens up opportunities for healthcare or pornography. And you've got all sorts of ways of accessing the content which you wouldn't normally have over other sorts of networks, and paying for it as well.
Yeah, I think just touching on the concept of rich media, as you say there, you only have to look at a child watching cartoons, to recognise that multimedia is just more appealing. I mean, I think that the touchscreens have made a big difference as well. They're very intimate and tactile in the way that you engage with those devices. If you've seen we're kind of an iPad, iPhone family, and you'll see the child on the PC trying to drag the things on the screen on the PC and wondering why you can't move them. Right? I think it's obvious that these types of interfaces are just more engaging and more intimate, and that type of rich media, really, if you're going to bring a brand message home, is the way it works. If you think about the previous mobile campaigns, they were very direct response focused. So it was about maybe buying ringtones or maybe signing up for a SIM card. There were plenty of immediate direct response campaigns executed that way. Now we're starting to see a lot more brand advertising. If we think of Yahoo, I would say last year we still saw around 30% of our campaigns were end consumables, as we call them, so ringtones and content. This year, that was 2009, 2010, we saw it was less than 5%. So we see the brand components of these campaigns growing in a direct proportion to the amount of rich media we can put in front of users.
I think we just understand it as being anything than text. There's something which distinguishes it from, in practical media buying terms, is personal data. The only environment we...
Just in the interest of spreading the wealth, I'll hand off.
Yeah, absolutely. For app providers, what we see, sitting down our little end of the value chain, is that most of them don't really consider advertising as being a credible way of turning a profit from the apps or services they're providing. What we've seen actually over the last year or so is lots of them look for sponsorship, which I think is a sort of lower risk, lower reward way of doing it themselves. It doesn't involve dealing with a slightly fragmented, complicated advertising industry. It means they can just deal with one party, cover the costs. Great, they've done something mobile. The sponsors get to do something mobile, check that little box on the corporate CV. That's it, they can move on. So yeah, we're getting some more confidence in advertising in the first place would be good. At the other end of things, we've got this, one thing that's quite striking from being here the last sort of day or so is the amount of talk there is about the size of the audience. We've got this many billion people connected, great. But actually the addressable audience for advertising seems to be much, much smaller. And narrowing the gap between those two through data tariffs, through handsets that are set up and that actually provide a good internet browsing experience, all that sort of stuff. That kind of attacks the problem from the other end, I think.
Sure. I can be tactical in terms of the specifics there, and also talk a little bit more general. So I think you've touched on a couple of the points. In terms of what we see for advertisers, large screens, unlimited data plans, and then HTML5. In that order are really the three things. Creative people don't want to design for tiny little screens. They want to have a big canvas to put their images on. And then if you're going to have that big canvas and those big images, if you don't have an unlimited data plan, or at least an equivalent high cap, it's not going to work. Consumers aren't going to pay a lot of money to download those big, rich creatives. And then finally, there needs to be a standard across multiple devices to make that creative work. I mean, we don't all have the same phone. So we're big believers that Yahoo and HTML5 is a standard that will ultimately come together. I mean, in terms of the short term, we've seen differences in screen resolutions, differences in screen sizes, implementations of HTML5 be a big blocker to us being able to roll out really rich campaigns across multiple platforms. But I expect that to break down. Certainly with Android 3.0 coming out, it's a lot more in line with what we'd like to see to roll out these rich campaigns across devices. We have touching on standards as well. In application, there are no standards today that are officially endorsed by the IAB or the MMA. And I think we'll see ourselves and some of the other members step up over the coming months to make sure that we do have a standard around in-application advertising that lets us deliver these kind of rich creatives that people want to build.
I would add to that. I think once that work is done, and it'll be a process, I think it helps the practical marketer sitting down to do the budget for the year and figure out what you're going to spend where. A lot of these things we're talking about in practice, I mean, I know how much I'll spend on television, I know why I'll spend it, I know how to convince people why it should be spent, how to defend it. You start to move into the space that still sits in a small, opportunistic budget. And we do it because we inherently believe in it. There's a little bit of active faith. I think that's a really important piece. And then not to let ourselves or the agencies off the hook. It's possible somewhere in Best Buy, because we do a lot, that there's the shining example of what's so great. I don't think it's been lifted up quite yet. By comparison, so this is not the example for Rich Media right now. But I look at how we did a program through Twitter called 12 Force. And so it was part of a broader integrated campaign around a back-to-school timeframe. And we created a 12 Force, which was Best Buy employees and Geek Squad agents who would answer your questions if you tweeted them. Now that was a really interesting use of the medium that solved back to my utility point from before. It was really deep thinking about what can this medium do, how can it help solve a problem for customers and for us help build a relationship. That's a great example. I don't have that one yet, in my business. And I think it'll come. It's not that they won't. I just don't have it myself yet.
I think we touched on the fact that it's nascent. And you're pointing out there that we see a lot of mobile campaigns as just reach extensions. So somebody is placing a $2 million buy on for digital advertising. They include a $200K mobile component just for extra reach. Or as you said, maybe it's a little bit of a prey kind of. Maybe shouldn't we do that mobile thing? We should put it on there. I mean, the reality is, if you look around, how many people are sat there on their phone? I mean, where the attention is going, the advertising has to follow. And what we're seeing with we used to call them smartphones, but you can't always put them in the same class as what we might call hero phones with big touch screens and full browsers. We're seeing people using them at home, sat on the sofa, just as much as when they're out on the move. Once you have that iPhone or that Android device with a full browser, you don't really want to go to the PC anymore and turn it on and try and research information. You're just doing it on your phone. So where that attention is, where people are sat there doing that, both in home, at home and outdoor, which is probably, I guess, unique as a consumer device. There aren't too many devices that you do that with. We will see that attention follow, but only once we have those great examples of campaigns that really make sense on the mobile will we perhaps see a leap across time.
And moving forward, I mean, in terms of effectiveness, how do you measure this? In my introduction, I mentioned some initiatives around mobile measurement. They're now spread all over the world for now, and it does not necessarily always include sort of mobile application metrics. And it's still the early days, in my opinion, in terms of providing detailed stat that could reassure advertisers in terms of time spent, numbers of unique visitors. Do you think this is an inhibitor? Do you think, when do you expect these kind of mobile measurement tools provided by independent and certified parties to be available? And does that matter, basically?
The message I get from our buyers is that mobile theoretically is accountable as a wired web, so this isn't the problem. The problem is that we want better ad serving. The kind of problems we have, it's all well having theoretical cost per actions, cost per occasion and so on. But if we're not getting reliable data back, then we begin to worry. For instance, we might be targeting a UK audience, we might be getting 40% of our clicks coming in from outside the UK. Network overlap as much as 80%. We found up to 30% discrepancy in validation of data when we've checked it. So the solution to that would be a unified, a unified system, some sort of DSP perhaps, where we can analyse all these things at once and on a common basis. And you do that, and we double our mobile investment overnight. And we'd be doing it with 7-figure campaigns rather than sort of $20,000, $30,000 ones. It's on average at the moment.
It seems to me that the companies that we see investing the most in mobile are the ones who invest the most in metrics. And what I mean by that is the companies that are watching their persuasion metrics and the ones that are watching their awareness metrics see a disproportionate effectiveness on mobile, and so they say, I want more. And the companies that tend to stay about the same are the ones that follow that a little less. And going to the point earlier about transactional versus branding, we're seeing a very disproportionate amount of advertising coming in that's branding related these days. But of course, branding is also it still has to work financially for the companies, and especially for medium and large size transactions. Not to mention movie tickets, all along the board. We can see it all day long, but that information is typically held in the hands of a few people who are managing the campaign at the agency and at the brand. And whether it works or it doesn't, there's generally, and for good reason, a reluctance to share. So I think one of the keys to unlocking this then is to have commonly accepted benchmarks that are based on real campaigns and that people find to be credible. And then last but not least, it's especially powerful across platforms. So when you see the mobile, mobile is a channel, not a strategy. When you see the mobile combined with online and perhaps TV, all of a sudden you see real effectiveness, but mobile maybe is 20% of the buy, not 5% of the buy.
Absolutely. I mean, I think all the data that we have shows that mobile over-indexes on ad awareness, purchase intent, brand recall. You could say it's because compared to the size of the screen, it's a pretty big proportion of the screen. So it's kind of hard to miss. I mean, there's one argument to make, but I think it's definitely, we've got that kind of qualitative research, but then we invest an awful lot at Yahoo in targeting and measurements. One of the things that we're doing right now is consumer direct. I don't know if people have heard of that program. We work with Nielsen and their home scan panel, and what we've done is we've linked Yahoo accounts to Nielsen home scan customers, and these people scan every product they bring into their house. So what we're actually able to do is compare online advertising norms control group against people who've seen the ads and determine whether or not they actually bought products in the store, because they scan every product they bring into their house. Once we've actually done that measurement, we're able to then build a lookalike target database of Yahoo users who we can then go and target those products out in the future, and even then, again, revisit the results to see did it in fact generate the lift that we wanted it to generate. So I think companies like Yahoo are really focusing very hard on how you connect this kind of online spend, be it PC or mobile or wherever else, with real offline effectiveness. And I expect that we'll see a lot more of that. So both at the research level, brand favorability, brand awareness, and then also at the actual action level. I mean, all, brands are brands. They say they want emotion, but ultimately Nike has to sell trainers. And there has to be some action at the end of the day. Otherwise, it's not going to be effective.
To which extent do you think the dilution of usage that is likely to happen now that smartphones are available to masses will change the effectiveness? You said it outperforms other medias in terms of brand affinity and so on, but now that we see more and more smartphones being available and moving away from, let's say, I wouldn't say an early adopter audience, but do you think it will change this effectiveness? How will this be measured, and what are your expectations around that? Know that mobile marketing is really getting more mainstream.
I've got one point, and then I'll let somebody else answer. But it's a personal device. It's an intimate device. I mean, even if you're on the beach, you'll see people with their phone tucked into their swimsuit. I mean, it goes everywhere with you. A message that's carried to you on the mobile device carries more weight and gravitas than messages that come elsewhere. Plus this fact that, frankly, as a percentage of the screen tends to be larger, It's tactile, it's intimate. You know, the advertising that we're doing now with HTML5, you engage with it with your fingers, you stroke it, caress it. It's a much more powerful message than you have with other mediums.
There's also a lot of novelty value. I mean, whenever any sort of new form of advertising comes along, click-through rates are always very, very high. They drop off quickly. And if you look at iPad magazine sales, you see a similar sort of pattern there. First couple of issues, quite a few magazines, quite reasonable download figures, and then they dropped off really, really fast. So I don't see why we wouldn't see the same pattern occurring with new forms of mobile advertising.